On Zombie Reddit, today's story is
I contributed to my sister's wedding fund and was excluded. Karma gave her the best revenge. I am 18 years old and until recently my life was quiet. But everything changed when my sister Kim, 22, became obsessed with having a perfect wedding in a dream location. Ever since we were little, Kim was always the favorite of my parents Patrick, 56, and Joanna, 55. I was used to her being put first, but what happened with her wedding was beyond the pale. Kim decided to marry Sean, her boyfriend of 22 years, after only 2 months of dating. She dreamed of a spectacular wedding in a luxury hotel. The cost was crazy, but she didn't care. When she gets her mind set on something, we all have to adjust to her wishes. My parents supported her idea without thinking twice, even though they didn't have the money. At first I thought I would only have to go as a guest, but I soon discovered that they wanted me more as a source of money. When the expenses got out of hand, my parents told me they needed to use my college savings to help pay for Kim's wedding. I was furious. That money was for my education, which I had worked so hard for. And more importantly, it was the inheritance I had received from my grandfather. Kim also received her share, but she spent it all on maintaining her expensive lifestyle. As always, Kim's whims were more important than anything else. My parents didn't just ask me for the money, they also made me feel like the bad guy for not wanting to help the family by supporting Kim. They would say things like Kim would do the same for you, which was completely untrue. After days of pressure, I gave in. Reluctantly, I transferred $10,000 from my savings, feeling frustrated and disappointed. The days before the wedding were very difficult. I was still upset about having to give away my savings, but I tried to look on the bright side. At least I could go to the wedding, right? Well, no. For days before the trip, Kim said something that left me frozen. I wasn't invited to the wedding. According to her, my presence would reflect badly on the family. I didn't even understand what she meant by that. All I knew was that it hurt a lot. After everything they had taken from me, they wouldn't even let me be there. I watched in disbelief as my family packed their bags and went to the airport without me. They didn't seem to care that they had excluded me after taking my money. I spent those days alone, full of rage and feeling betrayed, but that time also helped me see things clearly. I realized how they had manipulated me all my life, always putting Kim first, always sacrificing me for her. This time I said enough. I called the bank and asked for the $10,000 I had transferred back. I didn't care about the consequences. I was tired of being walked all over. The refund was processed and I got my money back in a few days. It was a small victory, but it felt like a big triumph. I had finally taken control of something. I knew my parents and Kim would be furious when they found out, but I was ready to face any drama. This is where things got even weirder. With my family out of the country, the house was quiet until a few days later when an unexpected visitor turned up. It was the ex-girlfriend of Kim's husband. I didn't know her, but she arrived saying she needed a place to stay, as if she had every right to be there. I was very confused. I didn't know what to do, but I was so tired of all the drama that I let her stay. I found out that she had a complicated history with Kim's husband and that they had been in contact before the wedding. It seems that she was hoping to patch things up with him, but it didn't turn out the way she wanted. I didn't know the whole story, but it was obvious that her presence was going to cause problems. When my family returned from the wedding, everyone was exhausted and tense. Kim was already in a bad mood because her perfect wedding hadn't gone as she'd expected. There was tension between her and her husband, and she was angry about something that had happened with his family. She had no idea of the drama that awaited her at home. Everything exploded when they entered the living room and saw Kim's husband's ex standing there. Kim completely lost control. She started screaming, demanding to know why this woman was in our house and how she had gotten there. My parents were also shocked, but they were only concerned with calming Kim down. The ex-girlfriend acted as if nothing had happened, not caring about the chaos she was causing. It turned out that Kim's husband had invited his ex to the wedding at the last minute, which caused a big scandal during the ceremony. It seems that she didn't understand that she wasn't welcome at the wedding and decided to come to our house. Kim was out of control. She had spent a lot of money on this wedding and sacrificed so much, only for her husband's ex-girlfriend to ruin everything. And then there was the money. Kim didn't know that the $10,000 she had given him was no longer in their wedding account. When she checked her accounts and saw that the money was missing, she had another fit of rage. My parents, as expected, were furious with me, but I didn't care. I calmly explained to them that, as they didn't invite me to the wedding, I didn't have to pay for it. It was as simple as that. The house was in complete chaos. Kim was furious about the wedding, about her husband's ex, and about the debt she now had to pay. The wedding had cost $40,000 and she had no idea how to pay for it. She blamed everyone, her husband, his family, and me for how things had turned out. Meanwhile, her husband seemed to be walking on broken glass, trying unsuccessfully to calm things down. In the midst of all this chaos, I felt strangely calm and disconnected. For the first time, I wasn't caught up in Kim's drama. I had got my money back and was focusing on my future. University was a possibility again, and I was starting to plan my life. I had spent my whole life sacrificing for Kim, and I was fed up. As time went by, Kim still had fits of rage about the wedding, her husband's ex-girlfriend, and their money problems. But finally I had drawn the line. I wasn't going to give in, and I wasn't going to let them drag me into the chaos again. Kim's perfect world was falling apart and, for the first time, it wasn't my fault. The unexpected visit had turned her life upside down, and now she had to face the consequences for the first time in her life. So here I am. Kim's wedding was a total disaster, largely thanks to her husband's ex-girlfriend, who crashed both the wedding and our house. She's $40,000 in debt, she's angry that I got my $10,000 back, and my parents won't stop guilt-tripping me for not supporting the family. Everyone treats me like the bad guy for standing up for myself and refusing to pay for a wedding I wasn't even invited to. But honestly, after everything they've put me through, I don't feel bad. I started focusing on my future, college, my own life, and I drew a line in the sand that I'm not going to cross. Kim's tantrums and demands are no longer my problem. But my family still says I'm selfish and mean for getting the money back. So am I the bad guy for withdrawing my $10,000 and letting my sister deal with the mess she created? Update 1. Hi, it's been about 4 months since my original post, and I think it's a good time to update because a lot has happened. After the wedding drama died down a bit and my parents stopped trying to make me feel guilty about the money, I noticed Kim's situation worsened. It all started when Kim started complaining that Sean wasn't doing enough to help her. He had a normal 9-to-5 job, but it was obvious that the wedding and all the expenses were taking a big toll on his finances. Instead of facing her problems head-on, Kim started to take it out on him. She thought Sean should be her emotional support while he dealt with his own stress. And that was just the beginning. The money problems got out of control. Kim couldn't pay for the wedding expenses after I got my money back. Her credit cards were maxed out and she started getting calls from collectors. This pressure led her to make very bad decisions with her money, trying to fix her life. She started doing extra jobs, but instead of using that money to pay off her debts, she got into more trouble. One night she decided to organize a celebratory dinner to show everyone that she was fine and had everything under control. But when she started inviting her friends, the cost of food and drinks skyrocketed. She overspent hoping to impress everyone and pretend she was still living her life of luxury. It was a total disaster. Kim ended up spending too much, racking up a bill with a local food service that she couldn't pay. When the bill arrived, she had to ask my parents for help, which only made things worse. My father, for the first time in his life, was furious with Kim, wondering how she could be so irresponsible after receiving so much financial support. To make matters worse, Kim started to lose friends. Sarah, one of her best friends, finally confronted her about the situation. Instead of listening to the criticism, Kim flew into a rage, accusing Sarah of not supporting her and of being jealous. Their argument ended in a war of social media posts, with Kim publicly criticizing Sarah for abandoning her in difficult times. It was embarrassing to watch, and the drama only made Kim's situation worse. Then came what followed. She decided that what she really needed was to become an influencer, and she used her recent wedding as a platform to launch her image online. She started posting about her life, her adventures, and her wellness journey, which basically consisted of buying expensive things and trying out weird diets. She hoped that this would magically solve all her problems, but it was obvious that her followers saw through the charade. The comments went from positive to critical, pointing at her hypocrisy and her excessive spending while she was deep in debt. Instead of accepting constructive comments, Kim became defensive, blocking anyone who dared to question her lifestyle. In the midst of all this, Kim joined a local group that focused on planning budget weddings. You would think it would be a good decision for her, but it quickly became another problem. During a meeting, Kim monopolized the conversation, bragging about her perfect wedding while completely ignoring the group's topic of practical budgeting advice. The other members got annoyed and a fight broke out. Kim stormed off saying that they were just jealous of her wedding. The group ended up expelling her, dealing another blow to her already weak social position. During this time, I started university thanks to some scholarships and loans. I was very relieved to get away from all that toxic atmosphere. I tried to stay as far away from the drama as possible, but Kim's problems were always present. Every time I spoke to my parents, they would tell me something new about Kim, and it was never good news. My mother even suggested that, since I was already studying, I could help Kim. But I rejected that idea immediately. I wasn't going to let them drag me into their problems again. Kim was finally facing the reality of her ever-increasing debts. The community group that seemed to be her salvation had turned against her, and hardly anyone followed her on social media anymore. Her friends were gradually distancing themselves, realizing that the Kim they knew no longer existed and had been replaced by someone obsessed with appearances and living in denial. Meanwhile, Sean moved in with friends because he couldn't take any more drama. Staying with Kim just meant wasting money, and he made it clear that he couldn't afford that or her lifestyle in general. To be fair, my parents were still trying to help her, encouraging her to look for work or spend less, but Kim wouldn't listen. She was sure that her dream of becoming an influencer would come true, and she didn't want to settle for anything less than the life she wanted. I saw her sinking deeper and deeper into her fantasies. She was determined to prove everyone wrong, but all she managed to do was to alienate herself from other people. In the end, it was obvious that Kim needed to hit rock bottom before she could change. Although I thought she had already done so several times, well, it seems that she has a different idea of what it means to hit rock bottom. In any case, it was sad to see her like that. Her wedding had become a reflection of everything she thought she wanted, and now it seemed to be the beginning of a completely different failure. The one center of attention now couldn't find her place in the world. That's how things are now. Kim moved back in with my parents. Her finances are a mess. Her husband is fed up with her. Her friends left, and her plans to be an influencer are not going as she expected. My parents are exhausted from trying to help her while dealing with their own stress, and I'm just trying to focus on my life, hoping to escape all this chaos forever. Update 2. Hi everyone. It's been about 3 months since the last update, and I wanted to tell you what's been happening with Kim and our lives. As you may remember, after the disastrous wedding and her attempts to fix her life, Kim lost Sean for good. He left a few months ago, and it seems like we're still living in a soap opera. At first, Kim didn't want to accept their separation. She pretended that everything was fine and that they were still on their honeymoon as she shared old photos of their wedding on social media. It was embarrassing and a bit sad to watch. She stayed trying to accept that their fairy tale was over after Sean left. She filled Sean's inbox with messages begging him to come back. She made desperate promises like "I'll do anything to make this work." It was hard to see her demean herself like that, and I thought she should focus on herself. But instead, all she could think about was convincing Sean that they could fix everything like magic. Kim arrived unannounced at Sean's apartment in one of his worst moments, crying and begging him not to leave her. He was kind but firm, explaining that their relationship had become toxic and that he couldn't go back. This only made her more desperate, and she was convinced that if she showed him how much she loved him, he would change his mind. I remember one night when she called me in tears and told me she would die of loneliness without him. It was painful to listen to her, and I didn't know whether to help her or make her see that she was sinking deeper and deeper into denial. I tried to tell her to think of her well-being first, but she wasn't ready to listen. Everything changed when Sean started dating someone else. When Kim found out, it was like she had pressed a button. She quickly went from being sad to being furious, posting aggressive hints on social media, accusing him of forgetting her too quickly and saying that she was sure he had cheated on her. Seeing how she let off steam made it clear that she couldn't accept that she had pushed him away. Kim then ruined everything by organizing a party and inviting mutual friends, hoping to get back together and fix their relationship. But as expected, Sean didn't show up. Instead of at least trying to keep her composure, she had a public meltdown. She kept asking her friends why he hadn't come to the party. It was all very embarrassing and made her look desperate. The final blow came when Sean made it clear he wanted a divorce. I can't even begin to describe how hard it was to see her crumble when reality hit her. She felt like she had lost everything and, to be honest, she had. Kim took a turn for the worse after that. She shut everyone out, even our parents who only wanted to help. They tried to convince her to seek professional help, but instead of thanking them for their support, she got angry with them, saying they didn't understand her pain. It was exhausting trying to reason with her, especially when I was trying to focus on my own life. In the end, they managed to convince her to see a therapist, but it seemed like she did it half-heartedly. Kim went to a few sessions but quickly rejected the idea of getting help. She clung to the hope that her marriage could be saved, refusing to see reality. Kim was in denial, which became obvious over time. She started posting photos of them together, reminiscing about their happy moments, as if that would make him come back. It was sad to see her clinging to a love that no longer existed. With the divorce approaching, we don't know what Kim might do. She's trapped in the past, clinging to her relationship with Sean even though it's over. I wish she could see that the only way forward is to face her feelings and start to move on, but she's still stuck in the past. It's hard for everyone, especially Sean. He's trying to move on with his life while Kim keeps dragging him into her drama. I really hope she finds a way to face the truth and start rebuilding her life, but for now, she doesn't seem to want to change things herself. So that's how things are. Kim is drowning in despair and denial, clinging to a relationship that is over. I can only hope that she will eventually accept reality and start to get better. In the meantime, we have to deal with the consequences of her actions and how they affect everyone around her. Update 3. Hi everyone, it's been a few months since my last update and things with Kim are somehow even worse. If you remember, Kim had been in a tailspin since Sean left and their marriage basically ended. Well, it didn't stop there. Now it's personal. Kim asked me for money recently. She told me she had some urgent bills and was going through a bad time. She's my sister, so I decided to help her even though I had my doubts. I gave her a lot of money, hoping it would help her get back on her feet, but I should have known better. Kim spent the money almost immediately. Instead of paying bills or doing something sensible with it, I don't even know what she spent it on, but it definitely wasn't what she said. When I confronted her about it, she went crazy. She called me selfish and said I didn't understand how difficult things were for her. It turned into a big fight. And then she cut off all communication with me. She blocked me on social media and stopped responding to my messages. She was angry and upset, but above all I realized that I had had enough of her drama. I tried to help, but she just threw it back at me, so I decided that I would never again let myself be dragged into her problems. A couple of weeks passed and then Kim turned up again. She had run out of money and had run out of options. She apologized and said that she had been through a very dark time and just needed time. Then she asked if she could stay with me for a while because she had nowhere else to go. I said no. I explained that I couldn't keep helping her if she wasn't willing to help herself. I told her she had to stop with her constant drama and her irresponsible decisions. And that I wasn't going to let her keep taking advantage of me. She cried and tried to make me feel guilty, but I stood my ground. I refused to let her drag me down with her. She went back to our parents, who were already tired of her drama. They, who had been supporting her through all her ups and downs, decided it was time to give Kim an ultimatum. They told her she needed to get a job or move out. I think they hoped this would make her see the reality of her situation. I don't blame them. Living with Kim had become exhausting for everyone. Surprisingly, Kim found a job quite quickly. It's nothing big or special. It's just a job in a local shop, but at least it's something. You'd think this would make her happy, right? Well, not exactly. She hasn't stopped complaining since she started. Nothing seems right to her. The hours, the pay, her colleagues, everything bothers her. I understand that starting a job can be difficult, but her constant complaints are exhausting. Every time I talk to her, she complains about how unfair everything is and that she deserves better than this kind of work. It's as if she doesn't realize how lucky she is to have a job after everything she's been through. The worst thing is that she always tries to get me to join in with her complaints. Can you believe how stupid my boss is, or I shouldn't have to put up with this? I find it hard to be patient with her when I know how much she has wasted in the past. I want to encourage her to look on the bright side and make the most of this opportunity, but she just won't listen. And, of course, she still believes she deserves more. She compares her current job with her previous life, as if she were living a nightmare because she is no longer the center of attention. It is tiring to listen to her talk about how she misses her life of luxury, especially knowing that she got herself into this mess. My parents are trying to be understanding, but I can see it's wearing them down. They try to remind her that this job is a first step, but she just rolls her eyes and ignores them. It's like she thinks she deserves better without making any effort. I guess some things never change. So now Kim is stuck complaining while trying to adapt to reality. I just wish she would realize how lucky she is to have a roof over her head and a job, even if it's not ideal. For now, I'm staying away as much as I can. So Kim has a job, but she makes it very clear that she is not cut out for this life. I will keep you posted if anything changes, but for now, it seems we are all stuck in this situation. Update 4. Hi all, it's been a while since my last update about my sister Kim. And things have taken a few unexpected turns. Every time I spoke to her since she started working, it was like walking into a self-pity party. She complained about how unfair her boss was, how lazy her colleagues were, and how she deserved better than that job. I tried to support her and remind her that everyone has to start somewhere, but it was exhausting listening to her complain all the time. I was starting to feel tired. Our parents, who did everything they could to help, also started to get tired of her complaints. They reminded Kim that this job was just a start. But she rolled her eyes and said they didn't understand how difficult her life was now. It was frustrating to see her wasting an opportunity that many people would want to have. After a particularly difficult week, I reached my limit. I told her that she needed to stop seeing only the negative and start appreciating what she has. And that she's lucky to have a job after all she's been through. She didn't like that at all. She got very angry and called me insensitive, so I decided to back off and let her sort things out for herself. I didn't hear from her for several weeks. To be honest, I was relieved. It was like a weight had been lifted. But I still worried about her. She was still living with our parents, and I knew they were starting to feel overwhelmed. I hoped that she would eventually understand that if she didn't try to change her life, everything would stay the same. Then one day Kim sent me a message asking if we could talk. I braced myself for another round of complaints or excuses, but when I called her, I was surprised. She sounded very different. She sounded happy and excited and told me that things were improving for her. I was surprised, but also happy for her. It was obvious from the way she spoke that things were really going well. She didn't mention Sean once. She didn't complain about the work. She just talked about how amazing the job was and how impressed her manager was with her. I felt really happy for her. One day she called to tell me that her manager had congratulated her on how she served customers. I could hear the excitement in her voice as she told me how she had helped a customer find exactly what they needed. It was a small thing, but it felt huge compared to how she had been recently. Kim started to take on more responsibility at work. She would offer to cover extra shifts and became friends with her colleagues. Our parents noticed the change too. They were optimistic, and it was nice to see them encouraging Kim as she improved. They encouraged her to save money for her own house, and Kim, surprisingly, listened to them. She talked about wanting to regain her independence, which seemed like an important step. Then the day came. She told me she had saved enough money to move out. I was so happy. She thanked me for being patient with her, which felt good after everything we had been through. Now Kim is gradually moving into her new apartment and continues to work hard. It's amazing to see her take control of her life and realize that change has to come from within. Of course, like everyone, she has moments of doubt and frustration, but now she can handle them better. She called me the other day not to complain, but to tell me how excited she is about a new project at work. I couldn't believe how far she had come. Kim was a totally different person just a year ago. Before, she was obsessed with living a life of luxury, spending our parents' money, but she is finally taking control of her own life, and I wouldn't be lying if I said I was proud of her. She is my older sister, so I always wanted to look up to her when I was a child, and maybe now I can finally do it.